between the lamb and the sheep. Well, I mean, the lamb and the goat. And the reason that is because it's a separation of consciousness, because the consciousness in itself, because, they even talk about in the CIA documents, the conscious energy grid. The conscious energy grid is going to manipulate, the electrical grid in itself.
Also, what we call in the 100 monkey effect, right? And then it's called, as we move into the new full swing of the new era, that's the event horizon. Going through the black hole, then you had a point of no return. You can't go back now. You're too far into this game. Right? Now remember, we caught between political satire and Hollywood theater. DC and Hollywood, political satire is fake. The political satire is a play called Plato's Republic, recycled over and over from different types of political applications, from communism to socialism, and none of them don't work. They're not designed to work longer than like 250 years. That's why you keep seeing every 250 years the world powers change.
Yeah, I'm going to show you something. I'm glad you brought that up. I got to bring the slides back up. I'm glad you brought that up because it show. I've been seeing that number 250 a lot. I've been seeing that a lot, and I made some slides for that. All right. Hey, they said I don't look like you. My bad if I don't look like you. I tried my best.
It's close enough.
I try to do what I could.
That's how AI see me.
Okay. Yeah. All right, where's that 250 at? So they talk about it right here. It's got the birthday cake around it. Because, like I said, it tells a timeline. It's a story.
Well, the 1776 contract was a 200-year contract. But remember, 1812 gave them an extension to 2012. Right now, after 2012 is where the work started to transition to the new government. So a couple things that they had to do that they did. They had to recognize that 400-year Bible contract. That's the white man's burden. What they call the law of discovery. The doctrine of discovery, the white man's burden. So they did the 400-year recognition in the Senate, the satire. Or Congress, whatever the hell, one of them, Washington, D.C., they passed a vote to recognize the 400-year captivity. Then they did a ceremony. Trump had the Bible upside down in front of a boarded-up church. And Nancy Pelosi tore the Bible on the Senate floor. Tore it in half. Right? On the same day. Republicans and Democrats. So when they did that, that was the end of the Bible contract that was the sacrifice of the first blood of the righteous. Now, they also passed before they passed the UNDRIP on the United Nations floor, and then they passed the United States Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, which says pretty much the same thing. In 2014, I think it was. Right? Then we had the ceremony to stake a totem pole in D.C. to reclaim the land from the Salvage Authority. The Salvage Authority was the Crown of England.
That's a fact.
Okay, now, once we did that, we reclaimed that 10 square miles as part of tribal territory. According to the Indigenous Rights Act of the United States and the United Nations, the indigenous people have a right to govern all indigenous land. Show me some that ain't.
Exactly.
So now they didn't recognize us, but it's only one way to secure recognition: oral tradition. Both documents talk about the oral tradition. And it's not a coincidence that the one is in the 13th chapter of the UNDRIP and the other one is in the 31st chapter of the UNDRIP. And then it's in something similar in the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. Right? 13 is the Queen Mother seal. 31 is the mirror flip. So on both sides.
Damn, I'm glad you brought that up because somebody in the chat, they said that July 4th of 2026 is 250 years. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So it was supposed to end, the contract was supposed to end it in 1976 at the bicentennial celebration. Because of the War 1812 and they got an extension. This is why in the Fall of America, Elijah Muhammad said the devil got an extension. Nobody know what he was talking about. How the hell did the devil get an extension? Because we took their ass back to war. They telling us that the War 1812 was something other than an indigenous uprising. That's not, it was exactly an indigenous uprising. We rose up and decided to take the land back and broke the treaty. So it reset the treaty. Started them all over for 200 years. And this is why you had Martin Luther King doing nonviolent protests. The protest was not to overthrow the government, undermine the government. It was to wake the people up to the fact that we don't need the government.
Facts.
They're not here for us. They have nothing to do with us and they don't care about us.
So, you want to get into some questions from the chat?
Let's go.
Yeah. I'm gonna put up some questions for you because I don't want to, overextend your time. I would like to be respectful of other people's time. Yeah.
But me and you can overload people with information and they leave.
Hit Ride, what I'm saying, with some questions, something, that's basically corresponding with the timeline that's taking place right now. So we're going to get into, let me see, we got some super chats. All right.
Somebody asked about the government buyback program for the old money. The banks have to collapse first.
Hold on, let me fix your Cash App real quick. Yeah. There we go. So everybody, in the chat, show, the master teacher, show him some veneration.
Master tutor.
I heard that.
Now they got a master teacher. Ain't nobody put out that much information.
Yeah, but you don't want on the land right now. That's why I said you gotta be on. We gotta be on some book.
As long as we breathing, can't nobody hold the title master teacher.
You said what?
As long as he breathing, can't nobody hold his title. He own that shit.
Yeah, we gotta. You gotta.
I'm cool with being a tutor.
Okay.
Because all I'm doing is just rehashing what all of the teachers before me taught. Pointing out hey, did y'all notice this part of it? Let me tell you what it means. Right? So that's all we doing. Tutoring the public on what we already learned.
Yeah, but you add more pieces to the puzzle though. You know what I'm saying? Because it's kind of like it's more updated information because a lot of people don't even understand what's going on right now.
That's for the foundation that the ones before us laid.
Oh yeah, salute the new diamonds in the chat. Okay, so this is what it says from Cool and So 88. If they broke the treaty, why would we go back to honoring the treaty?
That's the only treaty that they ever said we broke. All the ones they broke, we still honored them, trying to get out of the 200-year oppression. There was a ceasefire, but they still was using cheat codes like assassinations and murder. They weren't supposed to do that. And we weren't supposed to do it to them. We were supposed to educate ourselves above the condition. If once you educate yourself above the condition can no longer hold you captive. And there was only a handful of us in the last, since Noble Drew Ali, that was really lifting the consciousness that wasn't in it for selfish gain. Everybody that was in it for selfish gain set us back. It was too many greedy SOBs in the game for us to really get somebody who didn't care to sell us out. Right? Like your money don't mean nothing to me when I know that the value of my birthright is way greater than any money you can offer me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care about your money. I appreciate, people who send their donations and everything, but I'm not doing this for money. Mm-hmm. I'm doing this to unlock our birthright.
Mm.
And only by following the oral tradition that agrees to the tribes, putting the information in the public domain so that as many tribes people as possible can access the information and utilize the information to wake each other up. Right? Then we're doing our part. There's so many people that they do stuff for money. Mm-hmm. So money is their motivator. Mm-hmm. And when money is your motivator, you can be bought. Mm-hmm. But when love is your motivator, it ain't enough money to buy the real love. You can only buy fake love with money.
That's a fact.
And that have a life limit to it. Ask any divorced athlete, NFL, NBA. Buying love, it's got a lifespan. When you buy love, it can only last for so long before it fall apart naturally because it's not true.
Shit, and that's why in 2025, the vast majority of relationships, they only last for 30 damn minutes. Mm-hmm. Because it's built on, material order. That's why I keep telling people, man, if you don't have a mental connection, because the mental connection in itself, that's how you combat the negative forces right there. Neo, he wasn't able to escape the matrix until he had a divine feminine energy on his team. So it has to be a balance of energies. So that's why I keep telling people, man, like, that's the only way, to beat the system in itself is, going through.
Here's a kicker since you brought Neo and Trinity up. Uh-huh. She a female. They named her Trinity. But they named Neo, which is an anagram for one, an anagram for eon, the age. Mm-hmm. So in order for a Trinity to be Trinity, she got to be the rightful heir.
Right.
And now, what does she have to do in order to get her throne? She have to find her champion. Mm-hmm. So Big Mama got to find her son that's doing the work, that got all of the skills. Nobody's using them. He just sitting on the bench. She going to draft him to her team, and he going to start in the game. Then you go in there and you tell him what you know. Mm-hmm. Right? So Morpheus, which is the dual name, Morpheus is the god of dreams. Orpheus is the god of dreams. Morpheus is the god of transformation. Mm. Morpheus is Orpheus with an M on the front. Orpheus can't be Morpheus without Mama because he can't get the M.
That's a fact.
So he can't go from Orpheus the dreamer to Morpheus the mystic without Mama saying, "Okay, baby, it's your turn. Get out there and do your thing." Then you go from Orpheus to Morpheus.
Because the M is actually a 3, which also represents Trinity.
Right. Yeah. It's a 3 on its side. But the 3 is the M on its side, actually.
Yeah. So
because the M has always been the symbol for the mother, which is also the Masonic symbol of the apron. And we know that men don't wear aprons.
That's a fact. And you know what's crazy?
We know all these cross-dressing priests.
Man. And you know what's crazy, though? I'm glad you brought up that 3, because at 3, it corresponds with the mind in itself, which is connected to the neocortex. So that, you know what I'm saying? Like, they throw all them damn symbols in that movie for a reason.
Well, you got 3 parts to the brain. You got the reptilian brain, the old mammal brain, and the new mammal brain.
Yep.
The new mammal brain is called what? The neocortex.
Yep.
The new cortex. Mm. And Neo is the one.
So that means you have to master your animalistic self.
Sako Mao, your monkey man.
Hey, you know what's crazy? What if you was looking, if the movie Matrix had an equation, it would actually be the pi equation, wouldn't it? 3.14, because 3, Trinity, 1 represents the life force that you have to resurrect it in order to tap into those, what they call the Ark of the Covenant, the pituitary, hypothalamus, pineal gland, tachyon energy. and then the 4 represents that balance, that foundation. So, like I said, like all of it, pretty much corresponds, but people just got to look at the numerical sequence and how it lines up with prophecy.
And to tie into what you just said, the 3.14 being pi, which is the man standing on this post, you can see the perimeters of the circle, right?
Oh, okay.
And the 3 sisters flip, because the point means flip, one man in order to make a 4-corner shuffle. That's so the genetic equation is 3x flip 1y to 4 x's. Somebody discovered an unknown variable. So the 4 represents the 4-corner shuffle, which is the genetic shuffle, the moving around of the DNA on the 4 corners of the X chromosome. The Y chromosome is fit in any one of them as an unknown variable until it's been activated as an X-Man.
And you know what's crazy? I'm glad you brought that up because that 4-corner shuffle can also correspond with the fire horse, which is the great purification symbol, which we're talking about the red horseman, because the 4 horsemen is a representation of the 4 basic elements, which corresponds with the 1. The 1 actually is a representation of the quintessence that collaborates with those 4 basic elements. So that's when you get the what we call the Christ energy. So I'm actually breaking it down, the numerical sequence of pi backwards, because it actually tells you the whole story. The 4 horsemen, the 1 that reaches the Trinity principle within the Christ energy within yourself, which is a form of mind science technology.
Okay, now let's take it to the streets and how it applies to the tribes.
Okay.
The 4 represents the Vice Lord Nation, whose original colors was black and gold. But when they alliance under the 5, they also wear red. Right? So it's the unification of the Peace Stone Nation and the Vice Lord Nation that comes across as the 4-corner shuffle or the 4-corner hustle.
Yeah.
Then you have the 4 horses of the apocalypse you brought up, right? Which also is a whole nother thing because it started off with the white horse being where? You remember about 5 years ago where the white horse was at in photographs?
Beyonce.
Nope, not Beyonce. You remember Lauren London and Nipsey Hussle?
Yep.
Where did the white horse end up at? They just gave it to the Pope.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, now everybody keep calling the white horse the pale horse, and they're not the same horse.
Exactly.
The pale horse carries death, but the one on the white horse, went about conquering and to conquer. And was given to power to conquer. Right? And then what did the black horse came with? The scales in one hand and the food in the other hand, the wheats away. Right? So it's balance on one hand to feed the people on the other hand. Now the black horse comes back again at the end. It's only one of them that comes back at the end. Because while the other 3 horses, the red horse was given the power to start war and to wage war. That's Angel Bay, who just so happened to be in the hospital right now. Everybody sent positive energy. Chief Malik Angel Bay, Jeff Ford, who passed out at ADX, and they rushed him to the hospital. We don't know anything about his condition. We're waiting to hear from either the Bureau of Prisons or his family to give us any updates. So we don't have no updates on him, and we're concerned because he ain't supposed to even be there. Political prisoner. He was the red horse. The blue horse, Lucifer, is not in the book. The question is why.
Yeah, why is that? Why? What's the word on that?
And so that means that the blue horse is something that came about after the Bible concepts was developed. So it came about as a different concept. The blue horse, if you got a red horse, the blue horse is gonna automatically be next to it. Mm-hmm. That's Big Tookie, the blue horse, right? But the blue horse was put on ice. They froze Big Tookie in Area 51, right? So this is where the color blue, ice, Cricket Man walking lightning, the Shocker, Wes Craven.
The 80s movie Shocker. My dad had me watching that shit. Man, my dad had me watching some crazy movies, bro.
Yeah. So the Shocker is Big Tookie is the Shocker because everybody presumed that the government put him to death. Mm-hmm. Right. So he becomes the Shocker. The movie The Shocker was written by Wes Craven. Mm-hmm. It's a code there. Wes C. Raven. The Raven brings us to the Crow. Brandon Lee. Remember the Crow?
Yep.
Right. So the Raven is the actual bird that is calling the Crow in the movie The Crow. Mm-hmm. The Raven is the one who brings the message from the dead to the living, but also brings the one presumed to be dead back to life. Mm. So when you say the rest, you're talking about it's a T missing. The T represents the cross, the sacrifice one. Wow. So who is missing? Big Tookie, because they sacrificed him. But they didn't really sacrifice him. They treated him like the Christ, like it say in the book of Barnabas and in the Quran. They thought they had slain him, but surely they slain him not, for it was only made to appear as if he was slain. We need to forget about that part.
How you that's what I'm trying to figure out. How'd you find that out? Like, that's crazy.
It's in the codes. It's in the tribal codes. Real talkers.
Yeah, I understand that because everybody can't do that. Like, because I don't know what that is, because that's something you cannot find in the book. And that's one of the mechanisms that's missing out of, you know what I'm saying, as far as like the conscious community when they want to, you know, cross over to certain information to, you know, just to be that anchor in that glitch. Because a lot of people, they will look over stuff like this because it's not inside of textbooks and all this other stuff, and it's not coinciding with, you know, the grassroots of, you know, consciousness. So a lot of people, how you did that I don't know what that's like I said, that's some ninth dimensional shit right there. So
the Wes Craven, who froze Tookie, who gave the order?
I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when Tookie came to California, when Schwarzenegger came to California to be a bodybuilder, he had to get the rub from Tookie. Mm-hmm. So they had a weightlifting contest and the pose down. And Tookie's response was, this vanilla gorilla walked right up to me for a seat at the table. So he said, I don't need you now, but I'm going to need you in the future. Mm-hmm. When I need you, you just got to perform. Right? Nobody know about this agreement between them. Because you couldn't perform in anything dealing with iron in California in that era, and you don't have the rub from Big Tookie. He either gave you a rub or a left bump. A left bump was hostile. I mean, he punched you in the mouth. The rub mean that we had a friendly competition, and I acknowledge you now. Right? So, the reason we knew that Schwarzenegger was the one who put him on ice is because the next role after that Schwarzenegger got was Mr. Freeze on Batman.
Wow. And he played in Terminator 2, and Terminator, that's also, I think it begins in 2027, I believe.
Well, it goes back to 1984, if you remember. When he first meets Sarah Connor, he go back in time to 1984. Notice the year.
Oh, damn, that's crazy. Yo, hey, this is crazy. That's too many alignments, bro. I told you the answers is in the movies, man. I keep telling people that.
Okay, now somebody else was advocating for Big Tookie from the Red House, and they had to be flipped or tagged by Schwarzenegger. Mr. Freeze was smoking a cigar.
Yep.
Looking like a big blue Tookie. Looking like a big blue Suge Knight sitting on his chair, the Death Row throne.
Mm-hmm.
The hood, the face under the hood of Death Row Records is Big Tookie.
Mm-hmm.
The chief that woke up the Red House when he woke up the Blue House. So he carried a weight of both worlds on his shoulders.
Mm.
So now, if the Blood Nation realized they was a federally recognized tribe, and most of us don't know that the Blood Nation is a federally recognized tribe, and they got some interlopers masquerading as them on the Blood tribe land in Canada.
Mm. Hey, you be cracking them codes, bro. I got. That's where the codes be in the damn.
Okay, now me and Elder did a show where we talked about West Coast tribes because we still use the epithet, right? That referred to what the tribe referred to the other tribe. Blood still called Crips crabs.
Yep.
If you find out the crabbing tribe from the area, you get the name of the actual tribe that was renamed Crips. The Crip was renamed because it's a community revolution in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they was the ones looking inland. The Bloods was the ones looking to the sea. Brothers looking out on darkness.
Mm-hmm.
What happens after sunset when the sun finally drop over the horizon of the ocean on the West Coast? It get extra dark. So now you got your coastal tribes who's supposed to be guarding from the seaside in the Red House, your red crab. And then you have your inland tribe that's supposed to be looking from inland at hostile tribes coming across the land.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why they was woke up was because of police brutality. The Panthers woke them up. They the ones injected the consciousness of resistance against a foreign occupying military force because we're supposed to be our own military. The government infiltrated all sets. We call them sets. They call them battalions.
Mm-hmm.
And then they turned them against each other.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got Marines fighting Rangers, Navy SEALs fighting paratroopers. And they're not supposed to be fighting each other. They're supposed to be fighting the enemy.
That's a fact.
But the enemy came across with the uniform systems that makes them look legitimate because they wear uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then they put the code in the commercials. And they gave us the uniform commercial code. They trying to convince us the police are freeing.
Exactly.
And they keep killing us. And they don't tell you about the pale faces they kill like they tell you about the dark faces they kill. These people are foreign military. They don't care what your skin color is. They will blast your ass in the streets. Period. They foreign occupying force.
We're going to get into this Big 13. He says, is there a connection between the blood moon of March 14th this year on Pi Day?
That's 3.14 blood moon. The blood moon is always representative of a menstrual moon, even though they be giving them other names like cherry moon, which is also symbolic of the yoni, breaking the virginity, breaking the cherry, right? Then they also got a couple other names. They give strawberry moon, which is when the woman's about to end her menstrual. Talk about
yeah, that's him. Mm-hmm.
So the understanding of the Moorish things, if you take the dogma out, you got something called Moorish Zodiac Constitution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you got the literature from the Moorish Order of the Round Table, right? Then you got CMB, Charles Mosley Bay, Clock of Destiny, C. Freeman Neal on metaphysics, and then you got Hakeem Bey on the indigenous connection to the Moors.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you know what they telling you, because remember, it's just as much in the message that's not being said as it is in what's being said. They call that reading between the lines. You know, so all of these things translate. So when we go in Circle 7 in the 313, 313 reveals Detroit. Detroit is a French word that means straight, right? Straight is a common name given to a short stretch of waterway that leads to another waterway. They call it a strait. So the strait, which is Detroit, because we call it Detroit, but the French pronunciation is Detroit. Detroit, Trois is a reference to the Pygmy tribes, but it's also a number in French, right? Trois means 3. So then you got the D in front of it, Detroit, which means the third. Masonic message code is called the third degree. It's a Q&A to the public without restriction of who asks the question. They call that grilling you. But the grill is reference to putting you on a barbecue grill. You know, cook your ass with these questions. And then when you have somebody come in on the left bump, they call that peppering you from the pews. Right? It's like they used to throw tomatoes at the minstrels. Now, the Smashed Tomato is a movie rating site. Right? So when everything being connected, you travel through the stream of thought until you get to the destination. Where else do we see the Circle 7? The nation of gods and earths. Right? The 7 is the sun, right? The crescent is the woman, which is actually the earth. Right? So they show you in the Circle 7, in the 5% nation symbolism, the sun with the crescent, and then they show you the mother living over the sun. Right? Mama's son is my son, Mason. And we was crossing the Mason and Dixie line. And down in Dixie in the land of cotton. So we crossing the Mason-Dixon land from north to south, meaning we traversing from one governing tribe to another governing tribe. We moving from Cherokee Confederacy to Iroquois Confederacy. So you got 2 different tribal documents grandfathered in at the fall of America based on the Mason-Dixon line.
Now, because the reason why I was saying it, because I was thinking about Martin Lawrence. I don't know if it was like shot in Detroit, but the theme of the sitcom is centered around Detroit, right? Then you got like Big Meech, like it's a lot of things then dealing with Chicago, right? Dealing with Chicago in connection with Detroit. That's another connection. But let me roll some of these clips and then we can get into the nitty gritty.
Corrected. One is the drug trade didn't just affect us, but we was the primary target. It devastated so-called white America too. Right? So we got to remember that part. The other thing that he mentioned is the oral traditions on the west coast of Africa does not support the slave narrative.
Right.
Okay, now, what the oral tradition of the West Africans is we didn't come from over there, they came from over here.
Right.
Right, and it's a lot of oral traditions, tribal oral traditions that said they came across the great waters to the west.
Right.
Right, so the out of Africa theory, you got to remember, is contingent on the center of education being Europe.
Right.
Right, he said one more thing.
About he said about the ships.
Yeah, the ships. So also, they found Viking ships from the contemporary time frame as the so-called slave ship. Matter of fact, they might even be older than the so-called slave ships, and they still haven't produced an intact slave ship yet.
Mm-hmm.
No shipwreck has been discovered of a slave ship. Now remember, they said certain amount of ships was never making it to the destination. They was missing at sea. So you should have at least one shipwreck with the bones of Africans that was being brought over here. At least one.
Right.
In the course of the so-called 300 years that this was supposed to be taking place. Now, when you understand, going back to the first lady, the whole thing is a spin you around, get you dizzy, and then take the blindfold off and see if you know where you at. If they disassociate us from the land successfully and we believe we from somewhere else, you forego your birthright to your tribal heritage and your tribal inheritance. Right? So that's why they want us to believe that we all came from Africa. The people behind us want us to teach everybody that the United States is Africa. United States is not Africa. It's Atlantis. Right? And
Right.
they don't want us to, like, for instance, somebody sent me a thing today about, it's one of my posts, somebody tagged me in and said, it was an AI generated Morocco, California, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was saying before it was Beverly Hills, it was called Morocco, right? All of these cities with Bible names, none of those cities was called that before 1492. All of those charters that named those cities is post 1492. So when we see biblical references, we trying to attach to the chosen people of God. We the chosen people of God because we the chosen people of His land.
That's right.
Which is the chosen people of the matriarchy or the mothers. Right? We only chose because the land chose us, because it produced us to be the caretakers. We are the antibodies.
That's right.
And the people that came is the virus.
That's right.
They suck blood. We wear wolves. Come on now. They say we look like kin, so they called us lichens. But we ain't them and they ain't us. We just look alike. Right? But we don't even really look alike. We just got the same skin pigment levels and the same hair textures. But we don't really look alike phenotypically.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know one of us is from the land because we all got certain characteristics that's common to the tribes of the land. Mm-hmm. As they were being described during the whole invasion process, the first part of the invasion from 1492 to 1776. During that time, we wasn't encountering no pale faces.
That's right.
We was fighting Mongolians, Huns, and niggas. So if this is who we was up against, then how all of a sudden we end up fighting pale faces? Right? They had to make a classification in law called free white persons, but the description of that classification does not support the narrative of a skin color. So therefore, it must mean something else. In European, royals is called white people, no matter what their skin color is. Let that sink in. Roll the coin, brother.
Carlos Linnaeus is a dude that you might want to go look up. He was the one that was instrumental in creating the black sociality, the white paradigm, and then they in 1790 during the National Act, them kidnapping us from over here and shipping us to other places.
Yeah, so that's called the intra-American slave trade. You can look it up, and it'll show you ship routes and it'll show you land routes by which we was traded domestically. Mm-hmm. It's also called the domestic slave trade. Mm-hmm. Right? So you can see when they was taking people from New York to the islands. They was taken from New York to Louisiana, taken from Louisiana to the Carolinas. All that can be looked up under the intra-American slave trade or the domestic American slave trade. And it's like mind blowing when you understand that it was more domestic trading in humans than it was over the seas trading of humans. And that's the same. Just like they got those ledgers talking about who left Africa. They got ledgers about who they took from one part of the land to the other. They have to keep track of us.
Right.
They've been keeping track of us the whole time. We just didn't know it.
Right. Hey, Rod. So I read something where they said that they were enslaving the natives in the South and then sending them north west. So like if they were from Florida, they'd capture them and send them to Seattle, like later after they captured most of the land. But they were sending they was disorienting you by sending you to another part of the land, even though a lot of go ahead.
So a lot of that was done with children more than adults.
Okay.
When they capture the adults, they normally either put them in what's called isolated bondage, separate from the youth. Right, that's how they cut us off from our true oral traditions. And once they shut you off from the youth, they send in the youth to around people that speak different tribal languages than the tribe that he originally from. So he looked like an outsider to them. Right? And a lot of people didn't even catch their roots. When Kunta Kinte was telling Fiddler about being from Africa, and Fiddler was like, well, we don't know nothing about no Africans.
Right?
Because he was telling you that they was domestically in bondage. Right? That was part of the war effort of what they called the 7 Nation War. Right? But when the British and the French begin to win the war, the Russians are the ones who gave us aid on the West Coast. But originally they was coming to colonize the Americas too. They stopped in Alaska. Right. So now you got Russia then took Alaska. The Spanish, which we had the biggest sea fleet at the time, they took on what's called a multilateral attack on the land. Right. So when you look at the where Alcatraz at, you coming across the ocean and you could see the castle before you see the land. And he looked at like it was just a castle on water until you got close and you seen it was on the island. And so you got the Spanish coming around South America. Then you got the French and the Spanish both attacking us in the Gulf. You got the Dutch, the Portuguese, and the English or British attacking us in the Northeast. Right? And we got to fight all these wars on multiple fronts. Now they're attacking the islanders, so we gotta support that war effort just as well. So now the islanders is fighting these people, the mainland north and the mainland south is fighting these people. We've been fighting them for 500 years. They have us believing that we just laid down when they came. That's just further from the truth.
Right.
The word Cimarron is the word that's from the Spanish that means runaway. Seminoles is a whole nother word. It's French. Semi mean half. Nolis was the reference to the tribes over here. Right. So it was calling us mixed tribes because we had somebody from every tribe. So the French was calling us Seminoles, whereas the Spanish was calling us Cimarron, the runaways, right? But the runway or the runaway is really a reference to the ones that traveled the waterway, but we thinking they talking about somebody that didn't escape the plantation because of the rewrite of history, right? Because the ones who traveled the waterways, that was the runaways or runway, the same as a model walker runway. and it was for a short stretch of straight land, right? They had a river run through it, and then you can attack them from both sides. We knew the waterways. You can tell who's telling the story by the word that they use. When they call it the Gullah Wars, we telling the story. When they call it the Seminole Wars, the colonizer telling the story. We knew who we was. And they knew who they was trying to rebrand us as. Remember, they came over for a drop of blood. What did the brother say you need to prove that you part of a tribe?
Negro blood.
Negro blood. Great melting pot. Will one drop of blood from us make you one of us? That was the whole gimmick to begin with. That was the trick, because they knew the law of the land. If we adopt a foreigner and raise him, we have to have a suitable mate for him. So they got to marry into a family. They just can't be sitting on the land.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be tied to the vine. The vine is the old Mississippians. The vine to the root. Well, corner. Now, if you notice how they've been in close proximity for 100 and some years,
right?
You think their kids ain't married each other?
Right.
Now, the culture, they not telling you the reason why they together. Remember, I told you in the Trail of Tears, they used to be telling the people in the South the Indian train coming. Yeah. And they'd be like, I'm not getting on that.
Yeah.
And then they reclassified them as Negro. Well, yeah. Some of us left and went with the ones that was being trained in the boarding schools, the Indian training schools. Mm-hmm. That's when they mixed us together. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason why those two tribes lived in close proximity because the Mongolians took sides with us. Mm-hmm. So they got pushed on the reservation with us. The ones who didn't take sides with us, you can look at them and see they herds of Mongolians. And then they get special treatment from the government that these other tribes don't get on these other reservations. Mm-hmm. You can tell by the reservations who the tribe on the reservation took sides with. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The reservations that don't got nobody that look like us on it, them the ones took sides with the government, especially if they live in lavish. Right? Then you got the ones that intermarry so much you can't tell one from the other. So they just on the reservation as one phenotype, but they still the merger of two different groups. Right? Any reservation that's in poverty didn't go with the government's narrative. They was forced there. Right. Anyone that's been living lavish for the last 100 and something years, building casinos and shit, the government helps them build those casinos. Right. Right. Think about that. So we fighting with the Mongolians and the Huns, but all of them not against us. But some of them is. Right. Right. And the ones that's against us, they can get it just like anybody else against us can get it. Right. You know, so they not running up in the projects deporting nobody. They running up on reservations deporting people to Asia. Why is they doing that if they from here? Right. Right. That was the consequences of reversing the birthright citizenship.
I got another question for you, bro. Because it seems like when I started studying the runaway narrative, the slave narrative, and then I saw when they attacked the Yamassees, when they start raping their women and children, when the Yamassees start fighting them, they even call other people tribes to come help them fight against these parasites, essentially.
Yeah, we was all fighting. We was all helping each other to fight them. We was lending soldiers from tribe across tribe. In today's understanding in our community, this is what it look like. Vice Lord call up a GD and say, "Hey man, we fighting these colonizers. We need y'all help."
Yeah.
Right. Then the GD pick up the phone and call some Bloods. "Hey Blood, we need y'all help. For all of the tribes are sending soldiers across tribes based on the type of warfare that was being fought in the particular conflict. That's how they determine who would be sent where." Mm-hmm. Notice they talk about runaway slaves escaping to the north, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now remember, more people left the south and went southwest than they did north.
Right.
They was going back to the motherland to recruit more tribes. That's what that was all about. They weren't running away from no goddamn slavery. They was going to get some reinforcements. That's why they don't want you to know about the ones. Texas wasn't part of the transatlantic slave trade in American proper because it wasn't America yet.
Right.
Right. Texas probably been an American country just over 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
The same with California. That wasn't part of America. That was all Spanish America. Spain had claimed that land for themselves in 1492 under the edict from the Pope. Remember, they had a red line drawn on the map, and the Pope said Spain did everything west of this line and it went straight up to Mississippi.
That's right.
Right. So Texas fell under the jurisdiction of Spain, and then the French needed a stronghold, so they attacked New Orleans and got Louisiana from Spain as a territory. This is how they end up being the protectorate of the tribes that are covered under the Louisiana Purchase. When you look at the Louisiana Purchase, this was the largest part of the land grab because this took everything west of the Appalachians, east of the Rockies, north of the Gulf, all the way into what we call Canada today. That was all part of the Louisiana Purchase. They cut Canada off and gave it the name Canada to maintain the illusion of the English as being a threat to the British, and they're the same people.
Right.
Right. So they put the United States under English control, and they put Canada under British control because Britain controls England. I mean, shit, it's the same shit.
Right. Same.
Right. But so they got the same QSIP number. If they're two different countries, how do they get the same QSIP number?
Go ahead.
Right. So that was all part of the illusion. Remember, the Louisiana territory consisted of something called the Northwest Territory, which became your Midwest region. They had something called your Lower Appalachia, which became Kentucky and Tennessee. And then they had your Great Plains states. That gives you your Dakota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Nebraska, and those states. Then you had your Pacific territory. Pacific territory was when they, after the Lewis and Clark adventure, when they surveyed the land and laid claim to Washington and Oregon. Right? So now they got the land in sections. The military, they call that gridding off the territory for the invasion. We didn't know what they was doing because they was fighting a different kind of war. Right? They was using gunpowder. So we started making bullets.
Hey, you know something too, Roy? I noticed that when they got through fighting the Yamasseys and they kind of like conquered them a little bit, the ones that said, you know what, we ain't gonna stay here because they was using the doctrine of discovery, Papist bulls to enslave us with, right? So one group said, you know what, we're gonna just go. We ain't gonna stay here where they overpowered us. We're gonna just leave and go down and help, join with our other brothers. And then these U.S. colonizers said that, they runaway slaves because they were natives that they wanted to enslave, but since they didn't want to be enslaved, they said they were runaway slaves, right? And then they didn't even go ahead.
They go to the migration patterns of the tribes in the early years of the colonization. Mm-hmm. The migration patterns of North America went from south to east. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Of the tribes, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, the other migration pattern came from the south, coming out of what we call today southern Mexico. They came north and then they went east. Mm-hmm. So when I look back at the history of the tribes, as I understand it, if something had to be a great pull to make southern tribes and northern tribes converge on southeastern United States, what we call today Florida territory. Mm-hmm. Right. Remember, Florida and Louisiana was the same tribal government. Right. Louisiana is French for land of flowers, and Florida is Spanish. Mm-hmm. So they split it. King George put Georgia there as a military buffer zone to stop the tribes from going into Florida to support the Gullah War. Mm-hmm. Right? You got to go back and read why they setting up Georgia. Right? When you understand why they setting up Georgia, you say, well, why would they do that? What would you need to do this for? Then you realize it was a military campaign. Mm-hmm. If you don't know military strategy and how military operates, you'll never figure this shit out. The only way you can figure it out is if you understand warfare. So you heard my man saying that they had to create whiteness in order to divide the Poe crackers from the Poe Negroes.
Yeah.
Right, divide and conquer, military strategy 101. Right. Never let two different people that you're oppressing become allies, because now your threat has just doubled in size, which gave them triple the force. Mm. So they don't want us to recognize who is the oppressed. Yeah, remember, most of the palefaces came over here in bondage. They didn't come over here free.
That's right.
This is a common historical known thing that when the Europeans started being brought over here, which wasn't until the 1600s. Mind you, we had already been fighting the Spanish and the French since 1492.
Yeah.
So it's not until 1619 that with the Jonestown invasion that you get your first set of paleface Europeans arriving in the Americas.
And I think it's later than that. I think they came it was a sprinkle of them working as servants to these dark-skinned guys. I don't believe
they still got their contracts. They came over as indentures, but the way that they would do the indenture keeps them in lifelong servitude because they kept them in what's called perpetual debt.
Right.
Right. This is why if you go study maxims of law, it says that the slave is in debt to the slaver. Debt equals slavery. Right? So they keep you in debt, so they keep you owing them, so you constantly working to pay them off. And that's the same application that they use with the sharecropping agreements. Mm-hmm. But first they had to marry off the big mamas before they kill her so that her new husband can take the land. Because we didn't believe in selling land, and you wasn't going to get it from none of us. So who sold them the land? Right? So when you go back and look, you heard Malachi had to correct himself, right? When he said native Moors, then he said natives and Moors. So this is what we was fighting. We was fighting conquistadors, Huguenots, and gentry. Mm-hmm. Right? They came over as black Jews. They became lightened up in whitewashing the history after the 1600s. This is why when you see a picture of George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, they lighten them up for you to believe that they was something they wasn't.
That's right.
Psychological operations, mind games of war. All war is based upon deception. So who's deceiving who? And how does it work?
Hey, it was a case we talk about the Dred Scott case, right? But it was a case before Dred Scott with this dude named Williams. I can't think of his last name. Garner. I'll think of his last name in a minute. But Abraham Lincoln was representing him, and he had the same type of case as Dred Scott, but he won his case.
They teach our children to arrest their spiritual development at 5 years old. It don't take to the first grade though. That's why we start being 6-year-old adults over time. Because they dumbing you down what's using what's called an attrition model. So when we talk about ant people, we talk about Anunnaki. If we read it as an energy, we'll get way more information from it if we reject it or accept it as a reality. Mm-hmm. We get more information from it. Because most good lies have a piece of the truth in it. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what make the best lies. That's where the story of the well-dressed lie comes from. One day the lie came past, caught the truth taking a bath. Mm-hmm. Behind the truth's back, the lie dressed up in the truth's clothes. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And then the lie sprint past the trying to escape the truth. And now you got a well-dressed lie being chased by the naked truth.
Let me read this real quick, Rob.
Mm-hmm. Let's go.
Let me read. I should have got oh, give me 1 second, family. Why is it doing this? Okay, here we go. Yeah, academic one. Yeah.
Right. There's a theology. Right? Ours is mythology. My theology. Right? Their theology is the theology of theoretics. It's a theoretical. So they taking what was ours, reprinting it, and they don't really understand it, so it becomes theory study, ology and study of. So they studying the theory of something. Mythology is, I noticed, it's mine. My theology, my theory of study is to study itself. So they mix it up in the words, and then they turn around and use it to confuse you, putting the blinders on you. Right? Now, when we get to the ant people, we remember infinite realm of possibility. There's cycles on top of cycles on top of cycles. The history has to be rewritten for each cycle. So when you look back on it, that's already been done. You coming into another cycle, we might go into a cycle and have a whole new set of animals that we have never even fathomed in our mind. Where did they come from? They're going to spring forth and generate from our mind over time because it has to change. Well, the ancients discovered that these cycles cause catastrophes at the end. And if you figure out how to have a smooth transition, you can avert catastrophe. And sometimes that includes one cycle may end and they create Shambhala or Agartha. Because it's the same story when you study the story of Shambhala and Agartha. Agartha, they tell you that the people from Agartha came up during the close of many ages and did the same thing that the so-called ant people did. The term ant came from the idea of the ant people because they said that we act like ants and swarm around our big mama like termites and pesticides like bees. So they use those terms to describe what's known as our hive mind or pack mentality. right? The ant people and the legend, we call them Anasazi, is another name for them. When you look up Anazi, it's both over in what's called the motherland and it's over here as the spider. When you look at their symbolism, it's the spider. But the spider and the ant looks very similar. The Anasazi was one of the root tribes of the Americas. We call them today Old Mississippians. Becoming so informed about the cycles that the newly developing people on the land has to be protected from their own ignorance. So you have something like, hey, let's go teach these people how to build structures in the side of the mountain so when the catastrophe come, the earth will protect them. So you go teach it to them. And then you have what's called what's like a Pueblo village. If you go to study around Colorado, around Pueblo, you'll see they got this place, this village carved in the side of the mountains. The people say they was taught that technology of design from the ant people, right? All of this stuff is tied together through the weavers